All right, guys. I am trying something different. We are going to see how it works. I'm trying to
All right,
do
guys.
a
I
little,
am trying something different.
I'm trying to go live over YouTube. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go live over YouTube. And so what I'm going to try to do is monitor. I'm going to try to monitor the YouTube screen on one device while I um, uh, while I continue with the Zoom. So I'm gonna try to do my best. Okay, guys. I'm sorry if I get this wrong or if I mess up or anything like that. Please forgive me. This is something that I'm working on. This is something that's brand new. So I will start this from the top. How about that? Okay. For those of you who don't know me, hello, hello. My name is Robinette Cross, and I have a new company actually. It's called Layla's Rain. Layla's Rain, a lot of Layla's Rain was formerly Cross Cultural Talks, so that's why it's under here, under this umbrella. But I had Cross Cultural Talks for about 10 years. That was my company. And now I've decided to switch gears because I'm building a different legacy for me and my daughter. So my Moroccan name is Layla, and my daughter's middle name, one of her middle names is Rain. So that's how we get Layla's Rain. But I wanted to come on with you because I am offering just this workshop today, just free, it's online. I just want to share some things about global citizenship with you all, cultural competency, and just how to build inclusion. We are in a time, a day and time where that is vital. The teaching is vital, and you need to hear from people who know what they're talking about, and you need to hear from people who absolutely care. So I am here because I know what I'm talking about. And I absolutely care. And so I've been doing this work for a good little while, and I just want to share some things with you if you would allow me to do so. So I if you have questions in the chat, I'm monitoring the chat over here, but I would love to hear your questions and have your feedback. For right now, if you would allow me the opportunity to share with you, I would really love to do that. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm doing the best I can, guys. This whole toggling situation. All right. I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to take this back to the very beginning, to the top six. And I want you to let me know if you see something. Again, I apologize. I'm very new at this particular part of presenting on YouTube. But I think now you can see my screen. I think you can see me. I think I'm good to go. So today's presentation, the discussion is about cultural respect and openness. And it's something that I do believe it's not just for the nation where I live, it is for all nations. This is something that had been weighing on my heart for a while. And the more I see, the more anxiety I see through social media, the more people I see who are misguided or misdirected, the more assumptions that I see made, but also the more hard work that I see people trying to do. I really would like to share how to show up well across those types of differences. So the question is, who am I? Who is this woman? Well, I'm glad you asked. My name is Robinette Cross, Robinette D. Cross. If you're on this channel and you're following this channel, then you should be familiar with who I am anyway. But I am a mother. I have a beautiful 12-year-old daughter named Madison. She's my whole world. Besides God, there's no other being that I love more than her, right? So I love her deeply, deeply. I am an educator. I have been teaching now for, I've been at my current school for 12 years. I teach at an academically rigorous school in Richmond. I'm a history teacher, and that's what I have my degrees in as well, is history. But I've been teaching now for 15 years. And I love teaching. I love learning. I love mentoring, right? That's part of my identity, who I am. And I've I've learned in schools from all across the world, but I'm able to take that which I learned and bring all of that to this special environment where I get to teach every day. And it is rewarding. I am a diversity leader. So I serve as the diversity lead at our school as well, but I've also served as diversity leads in other schools, private industry, um, in other countries with personal leaders in the United States and outside of the United States. I, excuse me, work to build diversity across not only my Commonwealth, but the nation and the world. And then I count myself to be a global citizen. And for me, that is far and beyond traveling to different places as a tourist, which I know people need to go vacation, but I go places to learn. I go places be deposited and into and also to deposit. So I've lived in I think 5 countries now, but I've been traveling as a global citizen for over 22 years. And so I hope that helps understand this resume, right? But enough about that. Let's set some norms. So today is about skill building. It's not about perfection. People are always in the pursuit of perfection, but that's not our goal or our objective today. We are trying to build some new skills so that when you go places that you will go and you feel comfortable, but more importantly, you help other people feel comfortable and confident. Our agreements for today are a curiosity is more important than certainty, that you are constantly seeking to learn something new over, I know, right? Curiosity over certainty. Impact matters more than intent. So you could mean well, but it definitely matters more how your well-meaning action, whether that's a question or a gesture or whatever that is, has impacted others, right? So impact matters more than intent because you can say, I didn't mean it. But what also matters, and it matters significantly, is how you made someone feel as a result of that choice. Confidentiality and trust. So building trust is critical because you want people, the more people trust you, the more they will share with you, the more they will depend on you, the more they will open themselves up to you. And I'll share some personal stories from my hard work, from this work that I've done. I'm sure I'm happy to do it. And if you have questions as we go along, whether that's in the chat or in our session where you're in this live workshop, then please feel free to ask me. But practice over perfection. We are in pursuit, and cultural competency cannot be perfected, but we are always in the pursuit of the perfection because that is what it is. That is what it means. You don't reach perfection without work. So you can have perfect work. You can have work that is patient, that is diligent, that constantly improves itself. And that's the thing that matters. So we have our norms. These agreements create a safe space where we can all learn, we can make mistakes, and we can grow together. So when people think about one word you hope to practice today, I've asked this previously before I went live, and some of those words are understanding, hope, new skills. I know I've heard that. If you have something that you want to add in the chat on YouTube, feel free to do it. I'm happy to take a look. I see that there is chat in there. So please make sure that if you want to talk about it, you certainly can. But also the goal is, what will you leave with today? Hopefully you'll leave with a simple framework. A framework that's not too much pressure on you, but it gives you an idea, a safe structure that's clear, a memorable method for navigating real moments and cultural differences, because we experience them all the time, whether we are the ones who have made the misconception or misconceptions are made about us, right? Practical scripts. So some ready to use language that you can actually adapt to your specific situation. These are things that, and it's not rote memorization, it's just something that you can think about, language that you can use when there is a misstep or misunderstanding. How to repair. Inevitably, everybody makes a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. When you're learning about new cultures, new people, or you're walking in with your preconceived notions, You are going to make a mistake, but how do you express the fact that you made that mistake, intentionally or not? How do you apologize and make that apology demonstrative? And that's when we move to our practice plan. So you have a concrete action that you can take this week to build your skills. Now, if you notice that in the over to the right, you'll see those peace walkers. You have our monks that have been walking for peace. This is day, I believe, 73 or 74 of their walk. They are in South Carolina right now, I believe. And so we wish them hope, we wish them peace, we wish them protection, we wish them joy, we wish them rejuvenation. We wish a cola the dog good treats, right? We wish them health. We wish them all good things as they are walking for peace. And I have been inspired, and I hope you have too, by what you have seen on social media and through the media on this walk for peace, because it is truly changing hearts. We are seeing all kinds of people come together as a result of their tireless pursuit for peace. And so if we were to take a quick poll, then, what feels hardest for you to do? So does it feel hardest to ask questions or admit that you don't know something, to receive feedback, or to speak up? Out of those four options, what feels hardest for you to do? To ask a question, to admit that you don't know something, to receive feedback, or to actually speak up? I'll give you a second to go through your polls, that poll, and you can let me know. Ask a question, admit that you don't know something, receiving feedback, or speaking up. What's hard for you? And if you choose to participate in the chat, YouTube, let me know. If you choose to participate in the chat, let me know. Because I'm watching. All right, let's just give it one more second for your feedback. Okay. So what I'm seeing is that it's a mixture. Some people have a problem with asking questions, and that's okay because sometimes we don't know how to formulate the right question. And sometimes people are paralyzed for fear of offending others, so they don't want to ask the question. And then you have just some people who are just quiet. They have quieter personality, so they don't want to ask. And then you have those people who really don't want to admit something that they don't know. They shake their heads and they nod. You know those people? You've been in school with those people, they just shake their head and they nod like they know, mm-hmm. And might not know nothing. Might not know nothing. So admitting that you don't know is actually something that it creates vulnerability. Receiving feedback, that's a brave step, guys. It's a it's a brave step to receive feedback because it's hard to hear some of your areas of opportunity, even though it's really good for you. Sometimes it's hard because we internalize it, which you should, but some people internalize it to the point where it starts to be destructive, right? And excuse me, feedback is not negative always, right? Good feedback is great. I don't say bad feedback. I say these are our areas of opportunity. And even when I'm speaking with my students, especially when I'm speaking with my students and my daughter, when I'm speaking with other adults, I say we. And I learned that actually when I was working in a call center. I worked in a benefits center for 4 years. And I didn't mean to, but I quickly rose to the ranks. Why? Because it was an international center and it made sense, right? But I do understand having a clientele that is internationally minded. And so in the very, very beginning, when I was just learning, because I hadn't worked in a call center before, I didn't know, right? Then I would make a mistake. Now, I didn't make very many mistakes. I don't want you to think I was running around making a lot, but I would make a mistake. And my team leader, her name was Crystal, and I love her dearly. I'm not going to say her surname on here, but she knows who she is. I love, 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 love you, Crystal. And so when I would make a mistake and she would come over to correct me, she would use the term we. Where could we have done better? We did well here. Where could we have been better? So the next time we are going to do this. And it really felt so helpful for me not to feel so targeted and isolated. And I love that strategy. So sometimes receiving feedback, it seems like it's targeted just at you. And sometimes there's nobody else to look at. It's you. But I do like the language. If ever you are someone who's giving feedback, I do like that approach because it sounds so much more inclusive because it's an area that says, I'm willing to still help you. We can do this together. It's more of a team, right? To say this is work that you have to actively do, but you're not alone in doing that work. And I really appreciated that. And then this practice plan which is, I'm sorry, and then speaking up. Sometimes when we have been hurt, when we have been wronged, when we have been offended, it is really hard for us to actually speak up about it, to talk about it. And that takes action. These are action steps, and it takes and it and sometimes you have to get to the place where you feel confident. But if you're the type of person, have you ever been that type of person where where someone has hurt you and you just kind of let it slide, 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 let it slide. And the more you let it slide because you are afraid to speak up, the more damage it causes you. So all of these things take courage. All of these things take courage. And I encourage you to do those things anyway. Be curious and ask questions. Admit that you don't know because that's when people will pour information into you. They pour knowledge into you. You become you learn so much more when you say, I don't know, I want you to teach me as much as you can, right? Um, be willing to receive that feedback in a way where you are slow to offense and quick to learn and recover. And speaking up helps you with your boundaries and it helps give you voice. And it's a teachable moment for the person who has caused the offense. It is a wonderful opportunity. So I hope that we can help build your courage today as well, or at least get a plan to practice it, right? So let's look for some practical definitions since the title of our discussion today is cultural openness and respect. So when we say respect, that is right behavior that protects the dignity of every person, yourself included, regardless of difference. It's not about agreeing with something, it's about honoring the humanity of someone else while you're honoring your own. Okay. Openness is staying curious. That does not mean to share every little bit of your life and every thought that you may have. As a matter of fact, it is not, okay? Openness just means staying curious, even when you feel like you know something, giving someone else the platform to share, because they will share in a different way. Even though you may know something, you don't have that perspective. You're not coming with the sum total of that other person's experiences, you see? So it means being willing to question your own assumptions and consider perspectives that may challenge your worldview. Cultural humility is something that is critical as you are moving in the realm of global citizenship. It means I'm always learning. You are always learning, always, always, always. Everything is changing. That is the beauty of life. Everything is changing. So it is a lifelong commitment to self-reflection and recognizing that no one ever fully masters another culture. No one really fully masters their own culture because there's so many different nuances, but no one ever fully masters another person's culture. And that's something that we just have to come to be okay with, you know? And it's okay for us to be okay with that, right? And then I want to introduce this framework to you, which is called the CARE framework. You say it with me? The CARE framework. I love that, right? CARE framework. And it means it's all a part of how you present yourself or represent yourself or represent yourself in your life and your commitment and your circumstances. So it is the CARE framework. And that framework simply means it's a framework to help navigate cultural moments with confidence and care. confidence and care. Confidence, consideration, and care. How do you navigate those cultural moments? So C is check your lens. A, ask with curiosity. R, respect boundaries. And E, engage with repair. So what does it mean to, check your lens? Take a second, y'all. We move so fast to make assumptions. We move so fast that sometimes we do not stop and think about what we've done or what's been said, or take a minute, take a breather, pause, and examine the assumptions and stories that you're bringing in the moment. What is the sum? What have you been taught? What have you studied? What lens are you coming from? And just acknowledge that. Ask your questions. Ask with curiosity, with a real curious heart. Like children, ask with a real curious heart. So approach that with a genuine questions rather than assumptions or demands, right? Respect people's boundaries. That is critical, especially when it can mean the difference between someone's safety, your safety. It could mean the difference in whether or not you do irreparable harm to other people. So please honor what people choose to share and what they don't choose to share in any given moment, because it could mean that they might want to share with you later, but this is not the time or place to have that conversation. You see, so you don't want to push too much, but you want to demonstrate that you respect those boundaries. And if they never choose to share anymore, it's okay. And then engage with repair. If you make a mistake, which you will, it's okay. Mistakes happen. Now, it's not okay to keep making the same mistake over and over again. Don't do that. But mistakes happen. So engage with repair. When those mistakes happen, respond with accountability and action. And that's the care method. So the C, the check your lens, pause before you respond. So before you react to a cultural moment, let's say, excuse me, the one that I always use is, for those of you who know me, you know that I lived in Morocco for a good long while. And as a woman who, I'm not Muslim, when I first started my journey living there, I was young. I was 20, my first time going to Morocco. I was 20, and I really spent a good portion of my 20s there. And I had to learn, because being a woman from a strong Christian background in the American South, who was African American, I grew up with certain social and cultural norms that for me actually paralleled quite nicely with the social norms in Morocco in terms of prayer and uh, studying the word. But some of the gendered interaction I wasn't familiar with. And so while you are told about them, sometimes you have to be very mindful, even if you're not overtly in the streets hugging on boys, the things that you do in your home when visitors come to greet. You have to learn those subtle gender nuances. And when you can be in spaces, just like how you say that this space is for adults, right? Like when you're a child, don't come up here. So it's spaces when you're learning that are for men, and spaces that are for women, and when that space can be used just for family space. So I had to learn those things, and I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to learn them, and that I had a family, my Moroccan family, who is amazing, willing to teach me, and they were patient with me, and they allowed me to make mistakes that they corrected me in the moment for in our home, so that I would not repeat those mistakes when I went out of the house, because they were quite clear that what I did in the public space directly represented them as well, especially after they absorbed me as a member of their family and not just a visitor in their household. And so in our neighborhood, I became associated with our family name and not just a girl who was staying with them over time. So I had to be really mindful. But before reacting to a cultural moment, take a breath and examine your own thinking. And you have to know that everyone has an inherent bias. Inherent biases are not always wrong. They're based on your environment, the information that you are given in your community, in your environment, in your home, in your neighborhood, in your school. So, that's just like having it can be as simple as having a favorite football team, American football or international football, whichever football you think I'm talking about, right? Is having a favorite football team. Or, your inherent bias could be as severe as having racial stereotypes and social stereotypes and cultural stereotypes. Though, so to have an inherent bias, it's based on the sum total of information that you took in as a member of your community, right? They do not necessarily cause harm, but they may cause you to cause harm. When you discriminate against other people, that's a harmful act, right? You do it based on an inherent bias. So those things, inherent biases on the one hand the spectrum can be from my favorite team, my favorite school, because that's what, you could be an Ole Miss school, right? Everybody in my family, went to Ole Miss, not in my family, but just saying everybody in my family went to Ole Miss, so that's where we're gonna go, right? I'm thinking of The Blind Side with Michael Orr. And that's an inherent bias because it's like this is legacy. And that's meaningful. But sometimes those inherent biases by what's fed to you in media and your family and your community and your school can cause you to cause harm, and that becomes a problem. Our interpretations are shaped by our experiences, and what feels obvious to us may not be the whole story. And I can tell you, I was talking to my honors US history class the other day, and I told them that because of certain areas in our country that have now started to ban books and restrict educational opportunities, that there are parts of the United States where um, people don't believe that the South lost the Civil War. Or you may have Nazi sympathizers who don't believe that the Holocaust ever happened, even though there's verifiable proof for both. Or you may have people who are unaffected by what's happening in Haiti, in Sudan, Congo, right? You don't know the whole story or didn't know. I asked my other students, my global studies students, in history, I asked them why they knew that the president and first lady of Venezuela were kidnapped and they had no knowledge that Nigeria was bombed. Everybody in that class, I had a class of 24, 21 of them knew about what happened in Venezuela over winter holiday. 3 of them knew what happened in Nigeria over winter holiday. And why is that, right? And so people have to understand the information that they are being given. It shapes how you perceive the world. And that is not the whole story, right? So ask yourself 3 questions. What story am I telling myself about this particular situation or group of people? Where did that story come from? Did it come from family, media, past experiences? Where did it come from? What was my tunnel of information? And what are 2 more generous explanations I haven't considered? What else have I not considered? Now, this pause creates space between reaction and response. And that space is where growth starts to happen. So when you think about it, one assumption that you're learning to question is what? Ask yourself that question. One assumption that you are learning to question, an assumption that you are learning to question. And it all matters. Question those assumptions just like you question anything else. It's okay. Ask with curiosity because it matters. So, curiosity, it's a powerful tool for building understanding, but only when it's offered with genuine care and respect for the other person's choice to engage. So, you have to be willing to ask someone if it is okay for you to ask them a question. You have to be willing to ask someone, are they okay with you asking them a question? And if they are not, please do not ask them. You have to be willing to hear no from people. You have to be willing to hear it and to not put pressure on that person. So acknowledge the context. You might say, I might be missing some context here. Can you share what feels important for me to know? I might be missing that, and that's critical for me. So please share with me what's important for me to know about this culture, about this group of people, about this mask, right? About this beadwork, about this cultural practice, about excuse me. It doesn't even have to be a completely different country. It can be a community of people near where you live, where you're from. Respect privacy. No pressure to explain if it feels personal. And the thing is, when people go back to that, going back to our poll, they are too shy to speak up. They may feel compelled to tell you information that feels vastly personal to them. And so when you lead with, may I please ask you a question? And please feel free genuinely to tell me if you are uncomfortable, or you don't have to even tell me that you feel uncomfortable. You can just say you don't want to answer the question. And I'm okay with both of your responses. I respect that, right? Then you can lead with, if the person says yes, then you can say, no pressure to explain if it feels personal. I want to respect your privacy and time. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me know. So you want to thank them no matter what, because they have been courageous enough. One, they've been open enough to hear your question, and they've been courageous enough to respond to you one way or the other. And so too with you. If someone does that for you, ask you a question, right? Center their experience. Will you help me understand what that means for you? Instead of saying, well, I think it means, let me tell you one area academically, huge faux pas, huge. And I talk about this with my students as well, is when historians try to write for cultures. And it happens a lot less now, still happens at large scale, but it happens a lot less now. So around the 1960s and 70s, we had this big wave of Western feminists who started to write for women in the West. And they were talking about how, and rightly so, how women can do certain jobs and wages, um, and then they took that concept and they started to place that concept into different cultures, and they started to look at women who were veiled as though they were oppressed, and they started to look at women who were members of plural marriages, though that were immediately an oppressive situation, instead of culturally a working partnership. They decided to look at circumcision practices, whether that's on men or women, and automatically judge that. And that judgment caused a lot of controversy. And by the time we get to the 70s, you have, for feminist writers, right? Because American feminism in the United States and Canada and Western Europe is not the same as feminism in places like Middle Eastern Muslim countries. Absolutely not the same. And so you have those people who are those women or those scholars. It doesn't even have to be women, but those scholars now writing back. And I call it the mighty clapback of the 70s and 80s, right? So I call it a clapback because what they were saying is you have no idea. And you have done so much harm in saying that we women are oppressed because we feel like you all are oppressed. How oppressed do you have to feel to walk around with no clothes on in public, begging a man to take care of you? We have to do none of that, and we don't have to be breadwinners in our household, right? So you have to understand what your assumptions mean when you're inserting them. And so when you ask genuinely, please help me understand what that means for you, then listen actively for what that means for them, right? Respect those boundaries. Oh my gosh, consent is cultural competence. You have to respect the boundaries. So some things that are super easy to do are when you have an interaction, then someone may give you a name that is easier than their name. They might give you their actual name and say, but you can call me such and such if it's easier for you. If it's easy. So when you hear that, you should say, I really would like to try. Would you help me say your name correctly? And if you need it broken down by the syllable, that's fine. And you want to try. And if they laugh, that's okay. And if they say, listen, child, just call me Victoria, okay? Don't call them Victoria, but not until you've tried first. So that's where you get the Destiny's Child, say my name, right? Making an effort matters, okay? Mocking or refusing doesn't. And do not, please do not nickname people without their express permission. If someone says, so my name is Robinette, and I do not allow people to nickname me Robin because that's not my name. And so but I'm not a shy person. So I have always corrected them. That is not my name. Unless I've been in a situation where it's like in marching band, there was another Robinette, and she was Big Robin and I was Little Robin because it was easier to say Big Robin. I don't mind that. But that's a different situation. Everyone professionally calls me Robinette. Most people personally call me Robinette. But when I'm in Morocco, then my name is Layla. But everyone calls me Layla, right? And that's the name that I was given by my Moroccan father. And so that's what I expect to be called. I don't expect to be called any nickname or anything like that because people have not been permitted. So the same too goes with us. Try mhm, and really listen for it. Okay. Y'all, please ask permission before taking pictures of people or sacred spaces. Now, if it's a tourist attraction and that's just normal what people do, then of course you don't have to ask. But when you are in places, and I know from personal experience, because oftentimes when I traveled, because my complexion, people used to take pictures of me a lot without permission. Or when I would be with my sisters, my Moroccan sisters, people took pictures of us or took pictures of us in front of our doorway when we were just talking, we didn't know. And so my youngest Moroccan sister, she was a fiery one. She used to run them down and say, you did not ask, you do not have permission. Delete that photo and let me see you delete it. And so you just really need to, because nobody wants to just be walking, to and from wherever they're going, and they're just trying to go to the store or something, and you're taking pictures of them because you are a tourist, right? So really respecting those boundaries and asking for permission is critical. Personal stories and identity. People are not representatives. They are not a monolith. And to be honest, I was called a monolith before. And one person does not speak for an entire culture or race of people. That is an absurd inquiry to ask someone. What do you think all Black people say? What? What? You know how many Black people we are in the world? What's for all Americans? Do you know? There's no way I can speak for all Americans. What do you think for all African Americans? There's no way I can speak for all African Americans. What I can tell you is what is a generality across, you can't even really say across the board. I can tell you about my experience, and I can tell you customs that are important to us, but you cannot ask me to speak for an entire diaspora. One, that's unfair to me. right? And two, that is unfair to you because you don't get the answer that you need. And three, if you ask this to someone who is very sensitive, it causes them a lot of harm. Now, I'm speaking especially to educators. I've had experiences where when, teachers are talking about specific cultures, let's just say East Asian cultures. If there is an East Asian student in the classroom, then I've had teachers look directly at the student, asking the student to speak for all of East Asia in a classroom with 20 other students, and they're in the 10th grade. And they're talking about a cultural bias that they don't even know anything about. I've had students run to me crying because they have felt so targeted. Please, please, please don't do that. They are not representatives of an entire culture of people. Now, we carry culture for sure, and we carry it with pride for sure, but we are not the spokesperson for all the people who look like us or who are from where we're from. Okay. And then humor and stereotypes. When you say something that is harmful and then you say just joking, people don't forget that. Oh, I ain't mean it. I'm just joking. You're not just joking. They don't take it as a joke, especially when you're coming from outside of that particular culture or race. That is not funny. So please be mindful of the things that you say. And when you think you are being comical as opposed to how what you say is being received. Remember, impact is greater than intent. Impact is greater than intent. Okay. So we're going to pause there. They're just a little bit shy of the breakout, but what I want to do is just go on to the next thing. So when you cause harm, which it's going to happen, nobody's perfect and nobody means to, and it's okay. Not always okay. Okay. But there is redemption, and you always want to have restorative justice when it comes to cultural misunderstandings. You always want to have restorative practices. So, repair isn't about shame, it's about leadership, it's about taking ownership. Take ownership of what you've done, take ownership of how you did it, take ownership of what you said, take ownership of those things. And once you do so, then you will be able to it'll get better. So acknowledge what happened, name it without excuses. I messed up. I called you, I said this about you, and that was wrong, and I am so sorry. I am so sorry. See, apology, express genuine regret, not sorry if you felt that way. Sorry if you felt that way is not an apology, because that means that you still believe that you're right and that you are not willing to rectify something that you've done wrong. That is not ownership. And in my humble opinion, that is cowardly, because that means that you are not humble. You are not able to be humble enough to acknowledge your area of opportunity. So acknowledge, name what happened without excuses. Apologize from your heart. State what you're going to do differently, or ask, how can I fix this? Or what did I misunderstand? That's a good thing to ask instead of how can I fix this? What did I misunderstand? And say, I am sorry for misunderstanding that. And I will do better. Next time I will ask. Next time I will not assume. Next time I will fill in the blank. And then you actively adjust, because an empty apology might as well not have been said. As a matter of fact, that causes more harm, because if you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, that person is still holding you to what you said you were going to do. And if they don't see the change, then that causes more frustration. You actually cause more harm than good. So accountability is to thank them for their feedback. Remember, don't be afraid to take the feedback, or even if you are afraid, take it afraid. and then map out that adjustment. It is okay to do it. And it's okay if you stumble on the way to making adjustments, to making better, because you have to be, you have to retrain yourself, right? So you can say something like, I realize what I said was harmful. I'm so sorry. And that was not okay. I will educate myself further and then rather than put that burden on you. I know that you are not the representative for all of this. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to correct myself, right? Easy peasy, not so easy always. So this brings us to the end of our mini intro. And we have some next steps. If you are interested, I am offering a cultural toolkit mini course, and it is a self-paced course. It starts on Tuesday. That self-paced mini course includes video lessons, downloadable tools and templates, some scenarios with some 20 practice situations, so that you can kind of see yourself in those areas, and you can say, oh, I've done this before, or that's been done to me before. And it helps you not only build your understanding of compassion, but also it helps you learn how to respond when those questions are asked of you. And then you have a 1-minute live practice lab session with me. So if you are interested in that, then the standard price is $97. Now, if that's not something you can do, that's okay. We have a couple of options. Our early bird special for the next 72 hours, the session is only $67. I know. But if that's still too much for you, we have 10 scholarship spots available where you're getting $50 off the price. So it is $47. You just have to, and for the early bird special, when you're checking out, use the code toolkit67 and write that in all caps. And then for the scholarship rate, use the code scholar47 and write scholar in all caps. If you need me to send you the link in another way, please let me know. And I certainly can, but I do want to tell you about this amazing cause. 25% of the revenue goes to Girls for a Change, where we are. This is a wonderful organization that I work with, and we are raising money to send girls to Ghana in July. Excuse me, of this year. So we are going to send a girl to Ghana. It's going to be amazing, and we cannot wait to do that. 25% of all incoming funds go directly to Girls for a Change. So if you have any questions or if you need anything, you can always contact me. My contact information is right there, Robinette D. Cross. My email address is Layla's Reign, LAYLASREIGN as in Dominion, @gmail.com. Or you can ring my phone. It's 804-554-1827. I am so grateful for spending time with you today. I don't take it lightly that you joined me in this space. And so I just want to say thank you so much for spending time with me, for lending me your ear, for willing to have an open ear and an open heart and an open mind. And I very much so look forward to offering these opportunities to you again in the future. Take care, be well, and until next time, go be great on purpose, everyone.